Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just DAO It, the podcast for people starting DAOs. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm your host. And this week, we welcome to the show Puncar from How to DAO. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. This is going to be a special episode, different from the others, because Puncar literally just published a book. I meant to have it here with me. It's in the kitchen, called How to DAO. I do have it on my screen on my Kindle, and is also teaching an online class called How to DAO, and has been doing events around the world called How to DAO. So we're going to do a whole episode about Puncar and about how to DAO. I think it's perfect for our audience. You know, we've always tried to be a useful resource for people starting DAOs, whether it's their first DAO, their second DAO, their 10th DAO. And I know that even people who are already in the world of DAOs like to listen to this show for tips and tricks and ideas, and also to get to know folks like yourself who really have been a DAO OG, as well as a major contributor to the DAO industry. So again, Punkar, really happy to have you on the show.
Well, happy to be here, and hopefully, some of my advice would be helpful to your listeners. Every DAO is specific, but I think we have a lot of examples we can all learn from.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So let's start with a little bit of background about you. And then we'll kind of walk through the book and see where it takes us. Depending on where we go, I have some questions I prepared ahead of time, but we'll see if we even get to those. So, Punkar, first, will you tell me and the audience a bit about yourself? Your background, how you got into DAOs in the first place.
Yeah, so actually, I need to start the intro very early because that's kind of where the motivation to come to DAOs started. So I'm coming from Czech Republic, and my parents, but also my extended family, they were all entrepreneurs, or they still are. And so I grew up in like a small, medium businesses kind of environment. I went through my corporate life as well, and all this good stuff to understand how other type of companies work. And I always been in the role like product management and program management, and like figuring out how the organizations should work to incentivize people to build cool stuff, and also like have a purpose. And around 2017, I started in blockchain space, ICOs. So it's very financialized kind of space at that point, but also exciting because like new projects are popping up, getting funding, starting to build different projects and products on like this new financial system, which is sovereign. And, back then I was actually working for banks. So they were a little hesitant to adopt this new technology because they were not sure. And that's actually how I got into blockchain. Like I was working for banks, and they're like, "Is this a threat or an opportunity? Like should we get on this train, or should we rather like try to get rid of it?" And honestly, at that point, it was more education for me. So really like working with those stakeholders and explaining how blockchain works and how it can be helpful also for them. But the market is changing, so you should change as well. And after a couple of years doing this like more like blockchain and financial services stuff, uh, I was like, I need to get into like this like DAO space because I feel like this is where the innovation is actually happening. It's not happening in the bank or a large corporation. It's happening on the grassroots kind of stuff. And it felt like that's the environment I grew up at. This is the small businesses, medium businesses. Everyone is excited, and like we know each other. We are like everyone needs to pull their own weight to actually succeed. And like they grew larger, sure, but like at the beginning, it's usually like small project and really trying to change the world. And I wanted to change the world, and I wanted to make it easier for those entrepreneurs to get capital or get other resources and be able to execute on their vision. And I thought like DAOs are means to do that. And so I jumped in the DAO approximately 3 4 years ago, and then I was like, okay, I think that's it. I think this would work. We are not there yet, but how I can actually, help other people see what I see.
Hmm.
So after some brainstorming, and you are also part of Bankless DAO now, Black Flag DAO. So we brainstormed in the Bankless DAO back then. Like, what's the best medium to like show DAO, show the journey, and there have been some podcasts and blog posts, but like it's not like comprehensive enough to like for a person who like knows nothing about DAO, like can just take it and be like, wow, I want to be in. So book came up as the best medium because that's kind of like you can take a weekend off, you read it, and then you are like, this is for me or this is not. You can basically make informed decision after you read a book. You probably should not make informed decision after you read one blog post. uh and that's how the project started, and then we got publisher, so now it's published with Penguin Random House, which is amazing. I'm very grateful for it. Also grateful about like my co-author Kevin Owalki, helping on like working together on that this book and relaunching it. And also it's like we've been in this space for a while, and we both have like broader vision than like just like execute on the book. We want to really create the DAO adoption, and it's way easier. And it's just the first maybe DAO advice I have: work with people who has the same vision. Uh, because like if you have the long term vision to achieve something, but there are people for short term gains, it would not work out. Like you will fail eventually, because you will realize when the people don't see the short term gains, or they already, kind of got it, they will leave. And your long term vision, it's just, I don't know what's the word I can say on the podcast, but it's
So
do you have any suggestion on the word I can say now?
for how important it is to have a shared like vision and
No, like
passion.
if basically like like the short term gainers, or like the people who have really short term visions, like leave the project. If you had the long term vision, like you are alone, and the whole thing is basically going to fail.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just it's just like that. Like, and the alignment is important, and I think for how to DAO we do have it, and now we are pushing it forward. But like, let me just pause right here, so I'm not just
Yeah.
talking for the whole hour.
No, it's awesome. I really appreciate it. And there's some things I want to double click on. And folks, even who have read the book, we're going to dig into some things that were not in the book because they led to some questions I have about your background. So, one of the questions I have for you is you mentioned that one of your first work experiences was at this coffee shop, which was the family business, right? And that's what taught you what it's like to work in that environment that later brought you to be attracted to DAOs, right? So one of the things you mentioned in the book is that you open sourced the coffee shop. What does that mean? What did that look like? And maybe because I feel like maybe that also had something to do with how you ended up in DAOs, which are very open source. They tend to be very open source about what they do.
Yeah, so people say I'm like my father a lot, and there is multiple reasons why, but like one of the reasons is like we are not driven by the profits, we are driven by the value created, and like also like satisfying like people, and like the like the whole community. So like my father would be like organizing like events for like friends and people from the town, and it would not be really like any revenue, or it will be more like loss making kind of type of thing. But like he would be super happy about like, hey, everyone had good time, we did great, and they will come for to spend some money later. It doesn't really matter. So really like long-term thinker, like nurturing the community, and like work and like be part of it. uh and with the kind of open sourcing of the coffee shop, it's like you can do franchise and charge for like what you learn and how it should work. or you can just give free advice, and like you can help people like create their own coffee shops and like help them like maintaining it and like succeed as you did. And that's what he kind of did. Like he like so he had the one coffee shop, but because he had so like all the connections to to the manufacturer and getting it really from the source, everything, like then he could also help other people get it from there. So he started like this wholesale business, and but like he didn't want to just sell it to like random restaurants, random coffee shops, but he wanted to like keep the quality also like towards the customer, therefore like help those establishments. And it can be coffee shop, it can be nice restaurant, it can be it can be hotel, it can be like various type of hospitality business, but really make sure that they are also keeping the quality high and like not charging for that kind of thing, but like really like, hey, look at how we do it. Come come to our place, be there for a day, and I will teach you. So like free like coffee making courses, like didn't charge for it, should have maybe. Like, so like the
And this
open
is
sourcing
actually,
part, it's like kind of
yeah.
like let's give free stuff so we grow as a kind of community in a sense.
Yeah. And this is actually how a lot of blockchain projects work, whether people like it or not, right? Because once you launch your product onto the blockchain, not that all DAOs have to be working on blockchain products, but assuming you have a blockchain product or whatever blockchain components are helping you run the DAO, all that stuff is publicly available for anyone to see. It is technically open source, the actual code of the organization. And so I don't even think that's necessarily a point you were getting at in the book, but I think DAOs are inherently open source and copyable. Look at like things like vampire attacks as an example, which we've talked about before on the show. Even not a DAO, anything you do on the blockchain, someone else can come in and say, okay, well, I see who all your customers are. I'm going to airdrop all of them a token, and we're going to go do something similar that's has better values or done differently or whatever. And now it's like, even if you didn't want your organization to be open source, it pretty much is.
And it's a great primitive that we are open sourcing stuff, and there are some companies like Flashbots, which like open source everything they do. Like that's just like the nature of their business. Like they want everything to be open source. However, we are running into challenges, and I work for Gitcoin. I work on also Web2 open source projects. Like you still need funding. You still the value created by open source software, it's not actually captured by the open source software. It's usually captured by the companies building on top of it, and they barely channel the funds back. So I think where the opportunity lies, it's really like we can program like cryptographically like things like you use this open source, use it for free, you earn revenue using this open source, how much it's contributed to that particular open source. Okay, we want that cut to go back to that community so they can maintain it for you, they can build it up for you. And it's like really fair pricing. If you don't earn a revenue, that's fine, don't pay anything. But if you like earning it, share it with others so everyone gets the success. And I I just been at like an hacker house in New York for 10 days. And like one of the things we like with other crypto people, and one of the things we discuss is like how we balance the long term versus short term greed. So greed is a default. Like people will be greedy. It's kind of like, everyone may be like different level of greed, but like
Yeah.
everyone is kind of thinking for themselves at the end of the day. And like that's fair. If you don't think for yourself, it's also problematic.
Yeah. You can't
Uh
feed your family or yourself.
exactly, or
So yeah.
yourself, like, and
Yeah.
there are examples like that, like you need to be also mindful of yourself, and like, but like you should think a little bit more long term rather than short term. And how we incentivize that kind of behavior, like I think that's where we need to find the right way. So we know that if I put a little bit of that revenue back to the community, it will actually increase the value of my product eventually, because the tooling or the software I'm using will become way better. Therefore, my product will become way better, and I can charge more for it. And eventually, I have way more revenue than I would have if I don't channel the money back. You know, like, so these are the things I'm excited for, because like that's why I'm here. Like, let's have better capital allocation for people who wants to build. Let's not just like let the like top 1% have all the money because they figure out the business model, how to extract from others, but like let's just like have fair, you know, contribution kind of part.
Yeah. So let's dig into this open source use case a bit more, and then we'll return to your background if we have the chance. But so I've always felt like the evolution or even revolution in open source software is going to be one of the primary use cases for DAOs, because it's just so obvious and aligned to me. You know, it's kind of like most DAOs so far, at least from my general impression, are building open source software on the blockchain, right? Because it's just an obvious use case for DAOs to govern things built on the blockchain. But to me, it's also just obvious for any open source project, no matter what you're building. Maybe eventually everything will have a blockchain component, but even in the meantime, it does seem like, to your point, you know, if the old model was, okay, here's an open source project, and here are like maybe the 5 main contributors, and 2 of them started a company. One is operating independently. Another one maybe leads a community of hundreds of developers that just volunteer and give their time to the open source. And it's all kind of nebulous. And if someone said contribute to the project, well, what are you contributing to? Are you contributing to this for-profit company, this nonprofit company, this person, this group of people? But now with DAOs, it seems like there's a better way to coordinate and allocate capital, to use your language, across the whole project. So, I mean, is that happening? What's it going to look like? Do you agree that's a huge use case for DAOs?
Yes, I agree. And so funny thing, like what you were describing, it's kind of what we were like kind of trying to create last 2 weeks. And
Last week?
Last 2 weeks.
Oh, sweet. Okay. All right. Let's get into
it. So, you know, it was like there was a lot of people like from Flashbots actually on this Hacker House. And I'll be one of the kind of developers. She's spearheading like this AI CEO project. And AI CEO, it's basically, you know, you were like saying like there's multiple group, everyone's contributing something. Nobody knows to like nobody can keep track of where you actually contributing. However, now like everything gets recorded. You know, it's either on-chain transaction, it's meeting notes, it's you know, Telegram chats, like everything is recorded at some way. And if we like an AI getting pretty smart, so like if it can have all the context, and that's the purpose of AI CEO. What she's building is like, let's put all the information into it, and then the AI CEO, based on the value created, will basically figure out like whose contribution was the most important or how much value you created. So it's not just like how many meetings you attend, but was that particular information you said or that particular you like suggested actually contributing to the success of the project, you should get rewarded for it. So I think we are heading into the new paradigm shift. Like DAOs are one thing, and like what's really, from my perspective, important there, like it's the value transfer. It's easy to do value transfer, because like you know, we are like if we are just digital, we can send the information, but if we are on chain, we can send value. So now you can like really something coming in and you can move it back and forth as much as you want, and it's really making it easier and transparent. That's like DAOs, what they should be for. How we govern them and how this like distribution is decided, I think we are now entering like this era of like human AI type of like combination, because some of the things need so much context, and me or you, we can make best guess decision. I'm like, I think that guy was working pretty hard. Yeah, it kind of. I think he should be rewarded more than the other. Uh, but like, you don't have all the context. You don't know what they actually done. If the code they might made like 100 lines, and the other guy just 5 lines, but that 5 lines is like way more important. And actually, you can turn the 100 lines into 5 lines if you are a really good developer.
Mhm, mhm.
So like there are like these nuances, kind of like, how you can like think about it, and the AI, it just gets it. It just have all the context, and like if you set it up right, it can either recommend good decision and you just make the final call. But like I feel like it really enables and almost like remove the middle management from the equation, and now you have only like the leaders which like leading the way,
Yeah.
uh and then you have the builders who are building like together with the leaders, and you don't need this like admin kind of part, like where it's just like weekly catch ups, touch points and so on, which is like just like summarizing the tasks. And so I think, to your question, yes, those are way how the value can be distributed more efficiently, including open source software, because at this point, like, you don't care where the revenue came from, but like now you channel it to the whole ecosystem and then you distribute it around. Like, I think that's a great use case. It still involve people, which means like they need to agree that that's the way how we want to do it, free rider
Yeah.
program and stuff like that. However, it's easy on the technical side, and then like if we figure out that, like, AI can just help us like to maintain this.
So okay, let's dig into this a little bit more, into this open source software use case, because it sounds to me like you've actually like speed run in some ways past DAOs and to AI. So I want to dig into this a little bit. So first of all, what I was imagining when I brought up the general use case of applying DAOs to open source software, I was probably thinking something like, okay, well, everyone does their contributions and then everyone like votes on who gets how much reward. Like, okay, well, you did this much work, or you seem like you did a lot of work, but you didn't. So that's maybe just like a naive way of applying a DAO to an open source software project. And now instead of a user or a company using the software donating money to like the Torvald Foundation or the Linux company or something, they can just donate to Linux, the whole project that's governed by a DAO, and the DAO will decide how to allocate the money. But it sounds like you're saying, as someone who is like one of the premier DAO people, I almost feel like you're saying skip the DAO and just let AI decide. But I know that also with AI, governance is still really important, right? We don't really have like completely autonomous AI agents out there in the world, or maybe we shouldn't. Maybe they should still be governed through DAOs or DAO-like entities. Is that what you're saying, though? Is basically let the AI do the work, but govern it with a DAO? Or how does the DAO get involved in the scenario you're describing?
So I think the important part is what is a DAO. Like,
Nice. All
because
right,
like
we made it. we
I
we made it
know,
to what is a
like,
DAO already. Let's go.
so first, like, just like, I think like the DAO should be used just like, we should not go into like decentralized autonomous organization description. We should just say, okay, DAO as like name for something. As me as Punkar, P means nothing, U means nothing, and means nothing.
Yeah.
Like, we should like
Yeah.
consider DAO the same way, because like we are then like really narrowing it down like to something we tried like a couple of years ago, and we evolved from there. So what is a DAO? I think it's really like an on-chain organization. So you use blockchain for the internal governance, incentivization, and value transfer. You still need that organization structure if what we are talking about the use case is like, there is this OSS is one DAO. There is this revenue driven company, another DAO. There is, the individual contributors, which are not like per se DAO, but they are like belonging to some of the DAOs. And like, so you have this like pockets like around, which are the DAOs. And like maybe some of the pockets are only AI agents, or like then like there is and I can get into like some specific use case there, but like that's like how I see it. There are these organization pockets which use blockchain for their governance and value transfer and incentivization, and that's a DAO. It doesn't mean that like it needs to be like thousands of people. It doesn't also need to mean that like it will be there forever. It can be like one day thing. Like we just have this project, we just execute it, and when it's done, the DAO dissolves, and we work on different projects. Uh, and I think that's where the future is heading. Like those organizations are actually kind of transient. Like it's like we created it for the purpose, and then we dissolve them. The regulation needs to still catch up with that kind of concept. However, I think like that's how we work on projects in general. Like this podcast can be a DAO. Like we just need to execute this podcast, and after the 1.5 hour of the podcasting, we dissolve it. But like if we don't need probably the DAO, but theoretically we can like decide on the questions. We can like maybe there will be like some like link that you can send tips for the podcast, and then the DAO distributed based on who was talking more, which is me. So thank you. So like that's kind of like where I see DAOs heading. Like really like can be small projects, can be like still like Arbitrum DAO, which will be there for a long time, and it's more like stable type of DAO. But like there will be so different types. So I'm not saying we skip DAOs and go to AI. I'm saying we are using DAOs to coordinate the AI, and AI helping coordinate us. So
Yeah.
and then we use the primitives, and like that's kind of what some people are saying. Like the DAOs are basically to stop the agents from going rogue, because like that can be the mechanism how you can say, oh, this is too far, and people decide. So like you can like program that into their behavior, that like the last kind of stop is, okay, the DAO decides that like you should not do that. But
Yeah.
if you're doing good job, it's just like optimistic.
Yeah. So, okay. So I feel like you actually brought up 3 points, and I want to address each of them if we can, but at least dig into one. So, one is, what is a DAO really? 2 is this idea of like, are DAOs potentially more temporary and transient than maybe traditional organizations? Or to me, part of what I heard was maybe more product oriented rather than necessarily like survive forever and do lots of products oriented. And the third thing was talking about how AIs fit into DAOs. So let's just actually harp on what is a DAO for a minute, because it's a really interesting conversation to have with anyone who works seriously in the DAO industry, and especially with you. And actually, what I want to highlight for the listener is how much not only I agree with something you said, but that I think most people who work in the DAO industry, like most people who are either full-time or close contributors, or they're building software, or they're writing books, or me working on legal entities, whatever it is, most people I think would agree, but now, that what DAOs really are, exactly what you said, don't worry about the DAO. Like when I'm telling even a normie, like, what is a DAO? I just say, they ask what it stands for, and I'm like, I almost wish you hadn't asked, because it doesn't really matter anymore. But I think the answer that's really relevant here is what you said, which is it's an on-chain organization. It's an organization of any kind, literally any kind you can imagine, and even the kinds you can't, by the way, because they haven't existed yet because of the frictions inherent in traditional organization infrastructures. But anyone who's using the infrastructure that we're building in the DAO industry, anyone who's automating elements of their company and putting those elements on chain, I agree, like that's a DAO. Right. And yes, maybe there can be more idealized ideas of what a DAO is, like Plato's spoon, right? With like Plato's spoons, this famous like philosophical idea that maybe like there is an ideal spoon in my head and an ideal spoon in your head and in someone else's head, but we never actually see an ideal spoon in the world. We see things that remind us a lot or a little or somewhat of spoons. And I think DAOs, and by the way, Plato's point is that everything works this way. And I think DAOs kind of especially do work this way too, which is that different people can have different idealized ideas. different examples of organizations can fit into those ideas more or less. But ultimately, if you're doing things on chain as an organization, and I don't care what you call yourself, by the way, that makes you more of a DAO than someone who's not. And I think importantly, what that definition says is that it's not about how you structure your organization or how egalitarian you are or how community oriented you are or how democratic you are, right? Which is, to a lot of people, what's awesome about DAOs, and it is an important component of what DAOs make possible. But it sounds like you would agree that the key is that we're automating certain things and putting them on chain about how organizations work. And if you're doing that, you're using DAO technology. I mean, you call yourself a DAO or not.
Yeah, I agree. We don't need to call DAOs DAOs. We just decided to do so.
Right. Yeah.
And now I publish a book called How to DAO, so I stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to now. You don't have a choice.
Exactly. I don't have a choice. I need to call it DAO right now. But I agree. Like this is, and we also launched like a poster, and you can find it on our website, which is like evolution of organization. Like DAOs are just the evolution. Like we just putting like new primitives, using new technology to govern us, and like we don't have it there yet. Basically on that poster, like, but I think the next like organization, like, you know, well, let me not start with AI again. Let me get to different point of yours.
Okay.
You said like, should companies or DAOs be more transient, like, you know, rather than building multiple products, building just one? That's the point where what I'm excited for. It's like, let's have people, you know, small businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, like building stuff and they're passionate about. Like, you know, like I talk to like people from like Microsoft, Apple, Google, like they are like on these different projects. Like, yeah, they have great salaries, like they have great perks. Are they excited? Not really. You know, it's a job. You know, and I was working at EY with Microsoft, and like, you know, are people excited about project? Like, kind of, but like, it's not their project per se. You know, because they're just like getting the paycheck, and like then when it's a press release, it's usually a press release like Microsoft launch this, not Puncar launch this.
Yeah, not EY. Yeah,
exactly. So you know, I would be excited like when like this gets more on like the personal level. Like I'm building this new phone, and you know, I got like 100,000 customers for it, and like, you know, it's transferable. Like the software is open source. It's not locked in from like Apple or something. Like this is the future I see. But you are super passionate about that particular phone you build, and you will do everything like to make it work and like hear your customers and like make it really like a great product for like that subset of people. That's like what I want to see in the future. I don't want to see any more Google's, Microsoft's, Facebook's, whatever is the big corporation, Nvidia type of thing, or Tesla for that matter. I want to see more Adam companies and Punkar companies, you know, and like really like get back to like, you know, be excited about what you are doing, but not be just that 1% of his on the top. But let's have like more people just like doing things they love. And one last point I want to like make here, like when I look on the, and now I'm getting into AI again. Sorry, it
no, it's
just
good.
feels like
I'm gonna take us
it
back there
just
for a
feels
second
like it's
too.
like on the topic all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I watch Matrix actually on my flight from New York, so you know I got even more passionate about AI.
Nice. I'll have to try that.
I hope
it's been
we
a while.
won't. I hope we won't get into that. Yeah, like it's a, you know, like I also didn't know about you for a while, but like it's a nice movie. I like it. This time I watched the last one. But you know, like sometimes I just like to open this like older movies, especially about the future, because like you're kind of already living a little bit of the future. And I was actually for Valentine's Day, I was with my girlfriend for Back to the Future musical. So another like futuristic thing. So I'm like now full of like future AI.
I just rewatched Terminator and Terminator 2, which was fantastic. Maybe a different vision for well, Similar vision for AI in some ways.
Yeah, like it's an enhanced person, like, you know, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
used like the best technology possible to be a really good killer. Well, maybe let's use it for something else, but like, well, it's cool
Mhm,
to enhance people in this way.
mhm,
And um the point I most wanted to make, just to get back to that topic,
mhm,
it's like, okay, so AI now it's like eating people's job. I see it like same like as with agriculture. You know, it used to be like basically 100% people was in agriculture because the main thing you need is to get the food and eat, you know. So if you go to hunter gatherers era, everyone is in agriculture. Then you get into like, we actually have agriculture, okay, it's 80%, the 20 it's in some war, which king wants to do, but then like later on, like we get more efficient, we get tools, we get, you know, tractors and whatever. And now I think it's like 7% people it's in agriculture, or maybe even less actually.
mhm.
uh but people still have jobs, you know. We just move to like services, we move to doing different stuff. Like I'm not going to the field, I barely maintain our garden. Actually, we don't maintain really our garden. uh and this is happening again. Like now AI is taking some of the jobs, you know, like some of the jobs, like really like being an executive assistant, or which is kind of like the main point of ChatGPT, or, you know, maybe writing like professional writers. Like, yeah, you will be here for some time, but like the AI is getting better and better. So why I need to hire someone if I can just like prompt someone kind of thing, and it would work the same. And if it's more autonomous, it can like suggest something and like agree to it. So the same way, you know, like, so there are more of it right now. So those people need new jobs, new passion. And I think if we enable that, they can get like, you know, capital, and they can get resources to start working on their passion project. And like it will create value, which can be translated to revenue or something eventually. So they get like continuous funding. Then we are making, they lost the job, which they might not even like because it was just a job for paycheck, to a system where they are working on their passion project. So the work-life balance is kind of like, oh, you actually have just life because you just love what you are doing and you are getting paid for it. Like that's a great future. And I want to be part of it and I want to help to create it. So this is like, you know, philosophical, big social, economic changes, but I just like see bright future. It's kind of what I'm saying. It's
Yep.
like there's a lot of changes that people are scared of, but I think if we really stick together kind of and like we push the good parts of it, like we will have better future than it's today.
Okay, so I have here in my notes that we have said DAOs are at least four things so far. It's an on-chain organization, which is to say any type of organization you can imagine, but automate and certain infrastructure elements by putting them on-chain. Um, it's more of a transient way of working, fits into a little bit more like the gig economy. My words, not yours, but maybe they don't have to follow the same life cycle as traditional organizations. They integrate AI because you can have AI as a member, right? A contributor of sorts, or even a manager of a DAO, right? We're still trying to figure that out, or of an organization. And that because of these three things, and maybe for other reasons, DAOs can be more preferable to work for. So more aligned with your passions, more aligned with your interests. Now, actually, I keep saying this is what DAOs are. Really, these are innovations that are happening in the world of organizations. Maybe you could say organizational science. I don't know. Maybe I don't know exactly what that would mean, but these are several major trends happening in the world of organizations. And if I think about like the last 50 years of organizations, it doesn't feel like there's been as much innovation lately as is happening right now. Sure, you had the invention of the LLC, which you talk about a little bit in your book, by Wyoming, in the 1970s, though. I just asked Perplexity, the AI tool, what are the biggest organizational science innovations in the last several decades, and none of them were that impressive. I think the biggest one was open innovation, which actually sounds a lot like DAOs too, which is just to say, rather than trying to do everything privately, you go out to the open market to try to integrate innovation and collaboratively innovate with other organizations and stuff like that. But now there's these huge things happening, right? The fact that AIs can be members or managers of companies, the fact that we're automating a number of infrastructure elements of organizations, the fact that we're changing the life cycle of organizations, maybe they're more product oriented and less kind of lifetime career oriented. And then as a result, these will be hopefully more preferable places to work. Maybe I'll dig into something else that you talk about in the book. Actually, something the forward author, Dan Tapscott, mentions, which is, so Dan Tapscott's a guy who seems goes back into the internet a bit. And he wrote about the internet in, I think, the mid 90s, or at least before it had all kind of played out the way it has so far. And he said that the internet would lead to more networked models of working and organizations and less centralized ones. But now fast forward, 20, 30 years, and it seems like we have the strongest centralized organizations we've ever had, with power concentrated in the hands of small numbers of people, like Mark Zuckerberg with his super voting shares of Facebook. So I'm not saying that the internet was bad. I'm just saying it is not always clear that it led to what we wanted it to lead to. Why are DAOs going to be different? I mean, how do we know that these innovations, which we think are going to lead to these new models and new types of organizations, how do we know it won't just lead to an even more powerful corporate king in 10 years than, the Mark Zuckerbergs of today?
Like you mentioned so many things, and so how I'm thinking about it, just like start from the beginning, organization design, it's very connected to the social economic changes, and also innovations, new inventions, and if you go back in times, the kind of inventions of tools, then you can build a factory, so you can have people work in the factories more effectively, basically change how the whole cities were organized, how people were living, and it was actually worse for the people, and we just concentrated power to tool owners. And this is happening throughout the history. Whenever some tool was invented, if it usually got great value for people who owned it, because it was expensive, so you need to have a lot of capital, so the rich got richer, basically the poor got and eventually it changed. So eventually that was at the beginning, it was longer actually period sometime, but as we are more efficient, that was changing, that other people actually took over, because based on that innovation, which was expensive, they created maybe cheaper version, and they launched their own factories, or they launched their own product, if we talk internet, and then the product outgrew the other product. Facebook was not the first social media. They were not the first, they were just they outgrew the others, and they beat the market, and they done it through acquisitions, and then is that something you should be doing, buying Instagram, for example, buying WhatsApp, therefore you reducing really the competition on the market? What we want the free market on the other hand. So when I look at it, I'm those things are happening, not everything is great, but we as a society, because we are more informed and more empowered, we can change it. Me and you can decide to go out of Facebook today. You might have motivation to promote your business or see your relatives going for vacation. Don't have that motivation. And but we can evolve, and so I don't judge Zuckerberg for what he's doing, because he's building his own business, he did like this super shares, and like he's running the Facebook as the best he can to like build really strong organizations, and he's also bringing a lot of innovations into it, you know, with the kind of metaverse, like which was like billions of dollars pretty much wasted, but like maybe there was something like will play out. Now they have this Oculus and the other like Ray-Ban glasses,
Mhm.
which seems to be beating Apple, which I'm kind of happy for. You know, so like if there is like a good competition, I'm all for it. Yeah, you grew a big corporation. So I'm not saying like I don't like that this is happening, but that's just part of the evolution. Like
Mhm.
if you don't have like if you don't have decentralized governance within your organization, that's fine. It's your organization. People can decide if they will be part of it or not. We are not like in slavery. We are not forcing people to work there. Like we are kind of giving them like good incentives to work there, like, you know, like $500,000 salary per year. Like, well, maybe I will work for Facebook now. But like you are still in charge. People are still in charge of their own decision, and it just they decided to not care about like the power being centralized because they get good perks out of it. Where
Yep.
DAOs are making the innovation is, I think we can enable those people who now think like they're working for Facebook is my only option because I need the salary. I have nowhere to go. If my passion project probably don't produce enough value to be like revenue generating, maybe we will kind of lower the barrier, and we are like, well, if you start working on it, there is like high chance you get funding or like this amount of funding, like from the community, because they would value what you are doing. And like there are these are the examples of other people did the same, and this is the results. So you have some like data also to look at it, and like that's the purpose of the book in a sense. Just look at the data, look at the stories. Like you read it, you know, like we mostly like just like put like stories of different DAOs and people from the industry into it, and like say, hey, this was why they failed, this is what they learned, this is the next project that's kind of spin off, and this is how successful they are right now. And then you can be like, oh, I can do that, like, you know, like I can
Mhm.
see how now, like I can do that, I can beat the market like Sam is dated, and like now it's easier because I know like the tools are these, and like the people I need to engage are these, and do that. So I think we are just like building the new primitives. We just make it easier, same as internet make it easier to like do online products for everyone, can access it everywhere in the world. So you don't need to live in the United States to be kind of part of the biggest market. You can live wherever, and you can still launch it in the United States or like globally, basically. You know, these kind of things are just getting easier and easier. And if you continue doing that, like there won't be any Facebooks. There will be like hundreds of social media companies specialized to like selected group of individuals. There might be some connections, you know, and cross posting, whatever. I don't want to like discuss product, but like they will have the opportunity to actually work alongside each other, and all of them getting enough value to thrive. I don't want to say
Yeah.
survive because that's not a nice word. I think thrive is the right word.
Yeah. So okay. So, you know, the other thing I wanted to call out from Dan Tapscott's forward to How to DAO is he really emphasizes how the internet and now blockchain reduce transaction costs, and uh, and that reducing transaction costs is a key force behind the formation of the organization in the first place as a model, because basically what you have is like greatly reduced transaction costs within a group of people, so they can collaborate much more easily than if they were not like clumped together as a group. um, you know, to me, what we're building in the DAO space, especially if I look at more the social side of it, the political side, which is a lot of people are using this technology to create more democratic and more egalitarian forms of organization. Um, Now, I'm not convinced that that's going to be more efficient necessarily, and that will necessarily just win out on its own for efficiency or profit reasons in a free market. But I am convinced that just like with democratic nations, people will prefer to work with or work for the democratic ones rather than working with or working for the highly centralized ones. And so these democratic ones might actually be less efficient and might still win if people choose them over the more efficient traditional centralized organizations. Now, I would be thrilled if DAOs end up being more efficient in a number of ways as well, but I'm not convinced that they have to be. And also, when I think about the model that you describe with hundreds of options for social networking, for example, rather than one option, it's not obvious to me why, just because these organizations are either more efficient or more democratic and preferable, therefore, why will we end up with 100 of them instead of just one or two? I mean, what's the driving force with this technology or this approach that means we'll actually have a lot more choice in organizations and a lot more organizations than we have today?
Yes. So to a point, like, I think there can be different type of the DAOs. It's just like small DAOs, bigger DAOs. Like, it's like we just call it one name just because they use blockchain. But like, other than that, like, it can be big corporation, it can be small business, it can be solopreneur, and it can still be DAO. It's my perspective on it. And based on the size, but based on the purpose, you change the governance structure because like it needs to fit the purpose. Should not start with the governance and then go like hopefully that governance will help us to build this product. Maybe you should think like, okay, I'm building this product, how the governance can enable it. I do agree with you that more democratized and kind of open market and like predictable market, or predictable kind of decision making will win in the long term. And there are, yeah, as you said, examples of nation states who done that. There are examples of nation states which like push really hard, like with their kind of more like centralized power, but eventually, because there was no like, the small medium business type of thing and fashion in their state, eventually the people won't be that efficient. They won't work and they would fail. So, I'm coming from former communist country. Czech Republic was till 1990. Well, it was Czechoslovakia, one thing, but it was also communist country till 1990, same as like the Eastern Bloc. People were not working that hard because why? It's not my business. It's like I'm working for government. Like everyone is working for government. I might be passionate because like I would love to be teacher and like I want these kids to succeed, but like it goes so far. Eventually everyone is kind of like do the minimum. I don't get fired, which you actually cannot actually get fired anyway. You have a assigned job and you just stay there. And then like the innovation is not happening because I don't have any value from that. So it gets really like slow and like not really productive. So yeah, I agree with the whole concept. Like, we need to take care of the people. We like free market and too capitalistic like kind of vibe where like top 1% basically just like governing the 90%, also not great. We just need to be somewhere like on the good line, and we are figuring that out. And then what was the question actually you asked? Because I think I'm just commenting what you said, but I'm not answering the question you asked.
Yeah. So, and that was half of what I was talking about. The question is about your idea that we'll have 100 Facebook-like DAOs instead of one Facebook-like Facebook.
Yeah.
Why what forces will lead to that?
First, that's what I want to see. So maybe better example, it's like Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks. Like I do if I need to go for bathroom, but like
Nice.
But like generally, like I don't like chains, like franchises, like because I think they are like it's not fair for the actual franchisees that much. Like they can still earn a lot of money, but like it's still like very much like cutthroat kind of business. And like I rather support like local roastery, like local coffee shop, or like local business in a sense. And it's because like I see those people are passionate about it. They don't have that access to capital as the like Starbucks franchisees. Because like if you go to the bank and you're like, oh, I'm opening this Starbucks here, and you know, this is like the data. If I open it here, I probably get like $10 million, $10 million a year. And I just need five, you know, to build it up. They're like, yeah, sure, here's like 2% APR loan. Then you go to the bank and you're like, I have no data. I want this, I'm really passionate about coffee, and I want to open this like coffee shop, like in the same place as the Starbucks, you know, and I hope I survive, and I need just like 500,000. They're like, well, we probably don't give it to you because it's very unclear that you survive, you know, we don't have any data. Or maybe better scenario, yeah, here's the loan, but you know, the APR is like 30-40%. And like if we can make sure that both of those people get the same treatment, like then I believe more local coffee shops or the like individual apps will be popping up because they get the chance to actually do it. You know, for now, like you can get hired to Facebook and work for Facebook, and it's like no risk. You know, you just submit application and go through the process. Do you want to go and submit application to the bank to give you loan for like $5 million to like build the app? Probably not. But like I think we can get there. That it will be same as a job application almost. Like I'm submitting this, I want to build this. Can you help me? And I need continuous funding of like 5K a month for 6 months to prove the concept. Like people would chime in, or there will be system which can like, you know, assign that with some APR, so people also actually get rewarded for, you know, giving lending you money. I don't know how it will work. I just want it to work, and I will figure that
Okay.
out. So then you have more people getting the chance to start their own business. That's one thing. On the product side, okay, you know, all the UX like Facebook UX or other apps UX, it's like one fits all. And maybe it doesn't fit all. Maybe like I don't want to have like Facebook app, Twitter app, Farcaster app, whatever app in my phone. I just want to like see like social feed from everything and like just click on the button, post everywhere. Well, with like technology like what we have now, we have standards, you know. We have also, just to mention AI here, like AI agents which can go around basically, and you click and that AI agent will post on everything. And it's not even expensive because like, you know, it's not a transaction. So like there are ways how we can actually make the products better and way more customized for individuals. And that's why I think more companies can succeed on that like normal level, not like being a big corporation, but actually being like reasonably revenue like generation, bringing the value to people and so on. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
mental concept there.
So if I, you know, a couple points I want to distill from what you just said, you know, and maybe just what I was thinking too while you were saying it is, you know, I think two of the elements that will help, two of the forces that will drive DAOs and the future of organizations to being less centralized in like one or two, and instead have 90 or 150 or 100 options for the same kind of use case or product, is one, the composability of everything. So this is more of a blockchain feature, maybe part of the original vision for the internet, but really more of a blockchain feature that if you build it in the open as an open protocol of any kind, even if not a blockchain, someone else can say, well, okay, I have a better solution for the 2% of people that have this certain preference or quality. They'd actually be happier not using the Twitter app, but like my app, but I need some of that Twitter data, or I need some of that Twitter functionality. Well, now that's possible. And then beyond that is the open source nature of organization. So if Facebook was more open as an organizational structure, someone else could say, well, I'm going to try my own Facebook. And now you're copying and pasting a lot more of what makes Facebook than just its data or its users. You're actually taking some of its org structure, or, you talk in the book about how DAOs can be more like entire economies. You're kind of copying part of that Facebook economy to a new economy. So to me, those are two forces that say, okay, aside from just preference, which is relevant too, and preference may become more relevant when we have more choice than we do today. So all three of those, I guess, are forces towards having 100 Facebooks in the future instead of one, or something like that.
And just on that note of the standards, SNTP standards for email. You use Gmail, I use Yahoo. We still can receive the same email. We don't use for emails. We don't use same front ends. We just use the same standards, and that's how it should be in different ways as well. So internet was set up this way. There are and actually the standard bodies, or who invented the startups, those are not the rich people. Those are those were hardworking, really believers, but we did not channel the value to them, or all of them, the proportional to what actually value they created, which is not great. And I think we can improve on that with blockchain, and program that into the smart contracts and stuff. On the top, what just came to my mind from this hundreds, the network kind of what Don is talking about. Look at App Store. So App Store, it's millions of apps probably, but 30% of all the transactions go to Apple. 30%. And for what? For maintaining the website, or no? For keeping the users locked in the ecosystem. So it's not really they are taking 30% because they provide value. They're taking 30% because they can. And that's something what I want to avoid. I want to have open ecosystem. So those apps exist. We are on some standard, so it can be interoperable. And then if you want to tap into it, you can. You download it on your phone, which doesn't need to be Android or iOS. It can be something else based on some open source software with some versioning to it, because you want it I don't know, enabled native crypto wallet in it, whatever it is. And you got this 100,000 customers, but you still all of them has the access to all the apps on the internet. That's kind of the thing. I really hate now, and I'm saying it, and I have MacBook, and I have an iPad, and I have an iPhone, but I cannot change it. I cannot get out of the system. It's so inconvenient for me.
Yeah.
I was just buying new laptop, and I was should I look at something else? I'm no, it's just
so
I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
But I hope in the future it will be easier to get out of it, and I can buy different laptop, and it will work the same way. Just maybe there will be a smaller company just maintaining the software, and then big group maintaining the open source standard. So we get the shared security, if we talk blockchain part. Which is the big kind of Apple type of developer. But then we get the customization and personalized surveys from someone who is really passionate about that type of stuff. So I'm not sure I answer your question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting to note. I mean, what is probably one of the biggest reasons people choose Apple is because they trust Apple, not just because of technical reasons or feature reasons. I mean, there's a lot of that too. And blockchains and DAOs are automating and digitizing elements of trust between different agents. And so it makes sense, even at a very philosophical high level, that blockchain should be able to unbundle Apple a little bit, even for that reason.
So if I may, maybe because you also mentioned in the description that I'm from How to DAO and MotherDAO.
How to DAO and what?
And MotherDAO.
Oh, tell us more about MotherDAO. Yeah, please go ahead.
That's I'm about to do it. And
Okay.
like, MotherDAO or like Mother AI, it's a marketplace for AI agents. So if you like look at the App Store, we are the App Store for the AI agents. If you look on the 30%, well, we don't take 30%, but we do want the AI agents to channel their revenue back to the ecosystem. However, the distribution from that ecosystem, then it's like very transparent and DAO driven. So it's not that it's captured by like the stakeholders, like a couple of investors into us, but like it's like channeled to the overall ecosystem of open source software, tool builders, integration partners, also like people who just contribute to the marketplaces itself, maintaining the marketplace. So everyone who is basically enabling that ecosystem to like nurture, like to thrive and like to exist, they will get like fair compensation for their work, and therefore there can be more things built for the marketplace, more apps to show up, because then we can like help some of the AI agent builders like with the initial funding, because we would have that kind of flywheel there. And as the marketplace grows, it's more valuable, more attracting more people, and like they can use it. And so that's how we want to basically enable the future I want to see. Let's create the App Store, but let's create it like as a kind of public space. You can sign up. It should bring you more value. So if you're on the marketplace, you should earn more revenue. You have access to more tools, but then like you channel it back, and that's how it should work. And the DAO part of it, well, the DAO part of the like governing the system is one part, and like let's say it's pretty standardized. Like we would just make sure that like the distribution it's fair and the marketplace is running and the engineering team gets funded and stuff like that. So very standard. Now we have some concept we are thinking of and we will announce probably later, but like let's keep it like that for now. However, those agents, like the purpose of why they are on the one place is they can cooperate. So there can be tasks which needs to be executed by multiple agents because it's too complex. And that's where I see the DAO, like the very transient DAO to be happening. So imagine this. There is a Adam coming to the marketplace. Adam, it needs to go for the cruise because he loves cruises. But he doesn't know where to go, so he needs like some like recommendations, like what can be the options. He has some dates in his calendar, so he needs to have like this agent to check his calendar where it actually can be. Then he needs to have the agent who will be sending like emails to people who like he needs to cancel the meeting with, and then like booking agent like book actually the actual cruise, and then order Uber from his apartment to the harbor. And like one agent probably cannot do it all because they are not set up for it. But there will be like specialized agents like then can execute it. So those agents create like we call it like swarm, but you can think it of a DAO, because you will pay $50 into this, and or like if the cruise should be paid as well, like maybe more, but like let's say just for execution, like maybe $10. And then each agent gets some portion of it based on how much effort it took for them to actually execute. So they have this DAO treasury, then they decide between themselves how they distribute the value between those agents. You get the task executed, you go for the cruise, the DAO dissolves because someone else now hiring a different group of agents, which also will be like a DAO for a second and then dissolve. So that's and we have like this like DAO which is like basically happening for like a second or two till the task is executed, to DAO which is like the governing the marketplace, which should be here forever and really like make sure that the flywheel is still spinning and everything between. So the design space for this is like huge, and it's changing all the time, because like so much innovation is happening right now, you would not believe.
Yeah. Let's actually double click on AI agents for a second, since we're on the topic. MyDAO, probably the listeners don't even know this yet, but at MyDAO, we recently have started working with AI agent founders, because the legal entity that we created. Let me just take a step back. So, like, Puncar talks in the book about legal entities for DAOs. There's a section about legal issues for DAOs, and actually talks about the world's first DAO LLC, which was written in Wyoming about 4 years ago. As the listeners may recall, MyDAO started shortly thereafter. We actually wrote a similar law that I co-wrote in the Marshall Islands, creating a DAO LLC, the first offshore DAO LLC. And so we've been in this business of DAO and general Web3 and blockchain legal entities now for about 3.5 years. But recently, we realized that we accidentally also created a good legal entity for AI agents, because we had imagined that you might want to have an algorithm as the manager of a company, and that algorithm would be at a smart contract address. And so we built into the law, just like Wyoming has this too, actually, is the ability for an algorithm to manage a company. Well, now, wait a second, AI agents are algorithms too. And so there may be there's the bridging question of how does the AI agent get on chain? But once you've resolved that, we can actually have an AI agent that's a legal manager of an offshore nonprofit or for-profit company in the Marshall Islands. And then it still has to be governed by a legal person, so humans or other companies. And so the owners or governors of the company are still people of various types, but the manager is an AI agent. We're getting, we're interested and excited about this, but I would say it's also been very hard to separate hype from reality. In terms of, is there really a market for this today? When will the market be there? Is this current hype train of all the excitement around AI and AI agents, is it going to fall, or is it, for a while, or is it just going to keep exploding? So I'm curious if you could comment on that, from what you've seen in the world of AI agents and MotherDAO, which I wasn't familiar with MotherDAO actually, so it sounds very interesting. Maybe you could talk a little bit about separating the hype from reality and what's really going on with AI agents in this context of DAOs and on-chain.
Yeah, so I think most of it is reality at this point, because they are getting smarter, they are getting easier to build, easier to integrate, and what you said, they will be very autonomous, so maybe they need a legal entity as well. Like, there is always the owner, kind of the builder, or the people fund it. So I would think about it like, the agent gets created, and it's like a DAO. I will put DAO on everything.
It's a DAO as soon as it's created. So AI agent launched.
Yeah,
and it's a
and
DAO.
it's a
Okay.
DAO, because
Okay.
then you have the stakeholders, like the governors of the agent, and it might be like the early, investors. It might be the builder. It might be someone else, and you just put them on the governance, but optimistic way. Like, the agent, it's autonomous. They can do whatever. But if you don't like it, go rogue, or you need to distribute the value or redistribute it, the kind of what the agent earned, then it's on the DAO governance. Or but they need the legal personhood, because they might need to enter into contracts. Like, imagine,
Yeah.
I want to do this service, and well, I need an invoice. And the agent is like, no problem. I have a an entity. I will issue an invoice, and you just pay for it, and that's it. So I think there is a lot of actually reality, which sounds like a high, but we already almost there. It's just the pace of innovation in this space is just incredibly fast. So really, what's true today cannot, or we think it's not possible today, can be possible tomorrow. And I'm really excited about it. And I got into AI. Well, when I still work at financial services, we were building AI models for risk management, and who should get the loan based on criteria and stuff. Very different AI right now. So I'm new to AI now, because it's a super new. It's different AI than it used to be. We call it big data, but back then, now it's like the way how it works is different. And whenever I like read about like the new projects launch and like what you can actually do, it's super exciting, and it's so much happening. And I think we are also going towards that future. Like not everyone will succeed, like I know, but like so many people are trying and really want to build on stuff, and it enables them, because now the cost of building is really low. So like it used to be like, OpenAI needs so much money to like run the models and train them and so on. Now you can basically like use some open source model you can build on top of, like you can do so many things with like very little capital and succeed, which is just amazing.
Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, something I hadn't really thought about before, but I can see now how any AI agent kind of implies some kind of organization, because an AI agent is not in today's world anywhere a legal person in itself. And so if it's running, let's say, on a server that you're paying for, it's yours. I mean, that's an organization of one, but like it's you and the server and the AI agent, whatever it does, you'll be held accountable for, right? It's effectively like you guys are the same organization. And then if you have an AI agent on a blockchain, let's say it's completely running on a blockchain, maybe you could argue that that AI actually belongs to no one. Maybe that one's not part of an organization because it's just completely autonomous running on the blockchain. Although some people might want to hold the person who launched it accountable if something goes really wrong. And so I guess in any of these cases, just like with any other DAO, it's like, look, either let the world decide what your organization looks like and hold you liable and accountable in whatever way they want, or structure your organization ahead of time, use some kind of legal form or concept so that at least you're defining your relationship with the AI agent and how it interacts with the people involved, and you're probably giving yourself a little bit of protection there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And like there are the cases like that, like this chatbot went kind of like, I would say rogue, and started offering discounts to everyone. I think it was United or something. And then the court basically decided, well, you need to give those discounts
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's your chatbot. Like, they gave like 90%
Oh, that's
discount
great.
on its lifetime. Sorry. Well, if it happens to company like this big company like United, you are like not sad about it that much. If it happens to some smaller startup, like, and they go under because of it, like it's a little sad, but we probably can figure out some like good concepts where like we still can take those risks, but it's maybe not existential. However, we are also not like able to get out of contracts kind of whenever we want. Because that's also not great. Like I feel like when we talk about it, like the nation state and the democracy, like one of the biggest thing for like just like the markets to thrive, it's a predictability of decisions. So the courts might not decide right all the time, but if you can predict like how fast they decide, what will be, potentially the outcome of this behavior and stuff like that, like you are able to take risks, you are able to innovate. But if you like not sure what will happen and if you will be prosecuted, or if the some, I don't know, partnership type of deal goes wrong and then the court will take like 5 years to resolve it, you probably won't enter into any partnership agreement because like it's existential if it goes wrong, because it just takes too long. So so like I think like figuring out like how this will work, and like being on the same page, it's really important.
Yep. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to start a slow closing 10 minutes now, just to make sure we cover everything that we might want to. The first question that's top of mind for me, and then I have a couple more questions about the book, but are you going to be at ETH Denver by any chance?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Is there a
Was
how
easy
to
one.
DAO? What?
That was easy one.
Yeah, that was the easiest question of the day for sure. Is there going to be a how to DAO event or any kind of stuff you want? I'll be there too, by the way. I'm staying in the Carrot Castle, which is an Airbnb with like 7 or 8 people and events going on all the time. What's going on with you at ETH Denver, and what can people join if they want to?
I have not figured out my flights or accommodations yet, but I will be there.
We
Just
may
like
have a couch available, so
okay,
yeah,
I
feel
will.
free to
I
check in.
might take you up to the offer. So please, keep your phone close. I might be
I
texting you at some
will.
point. And yeah, so we are doing Shelling Point with Gitcoin. There will be also like book available and book signing, which is on 27th. And it's starting, I think, at 10 a.m. Goes all the way to 6 p.m. Mother also doing AI project at eDenver, so that's like directly like a mini summit at eDenver or official venue at the same day. So it's also 27. And then I will be probably ad hoc on some other events, just talking about DAOs, and I will try to, you know, post my schedule on social, so you can join me if you're interested. As of now, it's still kind of work in progress. What about
Cool.
you,
Okay.
Adam? What's your plan?
I am excited about this Carrot Castle, although I'm not hosting any. Well, actually, so every night, for example, we're saying it's like an open discussion about whatever topic. Each day will be different from like 10 p.m. and on.
Nice.
So one of the nights we're going to do DAOs or maybe Web3 legal issues, also TBD exactly which night. We'll post it out. And I'm sure I'll be hanging out at that house a lot because, part of why I love ETH Denver is just catching up with old friends and people I never see and just chilling with people. I don't feel like it has to be like 100% work 100% of the time when I'm there. I mean, it kind of is work, right? But it's
Yeah.
it's important in a different way. I'm excited about Decent DAO. So I don't know if you follow Decent DAO, but it's a MyDAO partner now, and actually a good friend of mine, Parker, who's a founder of Decent DAO, actually lives near me. So we've gotten to hang out in real life, which is just feels so rare in crypto to live near
And I
someone.
talked to him in 3 hours.
Are you serious? Nice. That's great. So he's going to be, they're hosting some awesome stuff. They're hosting, I think, like an all day or half day event at their giant booth at the actual ETH Denver event. And then they're going to have side events and they're participating in other people's events. So I'm excited about all of that. I don't even know if there's a schedule where you can see it, even though it's coming up next week. It's funny how
I
we
will
do
ask
things.
him.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, ask him. And for the audience, I'll try to post about all this stuff too. So I'm very excited about what they're building, and so I'm excited about those events as well, and who will be there. And then every day there's something. So let me just look at my calendar actually in case any of this is relevant. So, Monday night is Crypto Mondays. So if anyone's already there this coming Monday, the 24th, Crypto Monday is a global meetup group in over 50 cities. I'm the host of the local Orange County chapter. That should be fun. Wednesday night is ChippyCon. If anyone is a Chippy holder, this is really a lot for Bankless DAO OGs, now Black Flag DAO. Also, same night, though, is the Pizza Castle, which I hate to miss, but I'll have to choose one. That's the Pizza DAO party with great pizza from all over Denver. Thursday night is a hats event. And so that's always fun. And then, so those, and Friday morning is a decent legal summit. So if and people who are listening may be interested in the legal side of DAOs and Web3. So Friday morning will be the decent legal summit at the conference. So yeah, that's
And
some of
we
the
have
stuff I'm excited about.
competing event on Friday morning with Workout DAO. So if you want to go climbing instead of legal issues, so
Ooh, nice.
we are going climbing. So you can see it on our Luma / Workout DAO.
Sweet. Okay. Is there, so now if people want to find all this stuff for you, and I guess for me, I'll say I'll post this all on my social media in the next few days. Should they go to your Twitter? I mean, and actually that's just a good general question for you now that we're getting towards the end. I mean, what are the places people should come find you on social websites for ETH Denver, for the book, for the class? You know what? Actually, let me talk about the class for a second. So we haven't even talked about the class, but Puncar and others are also teaching a How to DAO online course. And I took the first time they offered it, I took my whole company. So all 5 of us from MyDAO, full-time employees at MyDAO, took the class together, which was amazing. And I highly recommend it. But include that also, please, when you're telling people where to find you and the stuff you're working on.
No, and it's great to hear, and I'm happy to enjoy it. It was our first cohort, so we were learning a lot ourselves as well. But like, getting feedback from you, your team, and others was super helpful. And we feel like it has a purpose, and like the concept makes sense for people to like really get like the hands-on expertise. And what I love the most about the course, or like the behavior we might not have predicted, but like it happened. Like when we created this like DAO, chit chat DAO, like people start behaving like they are actually in a DAO, like naturally, just like discussing proposals, discussing how we should govern this, how we should do this, without actually any prompt from us. And it was just like nice to see like that, people really get into it. So for the cohort number 2, we are starting March 18. You can, and let me double check. Yeah, nsconnect.xyz. That's our partner where you can sign up. You can also find more information at howtodao.xyz about the book and the course itself. This time we have a flagship partner but Polkadot. So Polkadot DAO, actually, it's the flagship partner now. So there will be live streams with Polkadot builders. There will be stipends from Polkadot, so you can actually earn like free access to the course. We will be posting more about it. So we are really grateful that they are like now supporting the course and helping us onboard more people into DAOs. And yeah, and we are starting March 18th. So like, don't wait, sign up. There's limited space as well. And where people can find me, just to kind of start wrapping up. Twitter, I think, is the best place. I do have Instagram. I do have Farcaster. I do have LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. I do have YouTube. But probably Twitter, I'm the most active, even though I'm not that much. And it's at Puncar H2D on Twitter. Everywhere else, I'm at Puncar only. Just like there is someone who has my handle
I
on
know. I
Twitter.
have the same problem. So annoying.
So yeah, and that's kind of it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this discussion, Adam. So thank you very much for inviting me. If you have any questions or like anyone, like I'm also at Puncar on Telegram, so feel free to DM me, and my DMs are open, and I'm passionate about like onboarding more people, into the DAO space, creating new DAOs, and same as I'm now like kind of helping MotherDAO like really create a system for coordinating AI agent and funding. Like I'm happy to help other people with the same, or just like on the individual level on the course, like educate them about like what's possible.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, it's been fantastic having you on the show. Just a quick ad and disclaimer, and then we'll say our goodbyes. The ad is for MyDAO, as always, MIDAO.org or MyDAO.ds on X. We provide legal entities for DAOs and Web3, and now AI agents based out of the Marshall Islands, where we've co-created the regulatory environment. And it's been awesome to have Puncar on the show. Oh, the disclaimer, of course, never legal advice. We're not lawyers anyways. It's not legal advice. It's not financial advice. And again, Puncar, it's been so awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep. And for the audience, are you thinking about starting a DAO?